Hollywood is certainly located in LA, but what's interesting is that the place in LA that's called Hollywood doesn't have a single studio in it anymore. The Columbia Studios and Warner's is to the northeast of Hollywood in a place called Burbank, about 10-15 minutes drive from there. MGM has now moved to Santa Monica. 20th Century Fox is near Beverly Hills in Century City. So all these studios basically are spread out in different places. Not one original studio remains in Hollywood, but it's collectively known as Hollywood. Because like saying Bollywood doesn't reside in Bandra or Lokhandwala. It's over a number of localities, but generally Bollywood is sort of these North Bombay localities that we talk about. New York has a completely different scene, a completely different ethos, a completely different set of politics, a completely different set of orders. Yes, there are some actors, like the Robert De Niro's, etc., that live in New York but are still considered very highly in LA and are called to work in LA. But in general, if you want to be a star, you live in LA. There are some remarkable exceptions. There's Clint Eastwood who lives up in Big Sur. There's Robert Redford who lives in, I think there's others. I think one of the Baldwin brothers lives somewhere in Montana. But in general, to be a star in Hollywood, you have to be in Hollywood. You know, I tell you, technically, our technical abilities are second to nobody in the world. Our best directors are as good as the best directors anywhere in the world. So technically, it's not that. Equipment we've also got, practically everything. Where we are at a disadvantage is the budgets that are needed for really big budget animations and really big budget action films. Because we are not in a place where we can spend $100 million on a film right now. That's 500 crores. You know, we are sort of pushing the edges of the 100 crore film in terms of budgets and 120 crores, you know. We are not there yet. So we can't begin to compete in those terms, in terms of scale. But in terms of skill, we have it all. We just need to do two things. One is find ways of making films for an international market. And because Bollywood, for all its song and dance, for all its lightning and thunder, forget Bollywood, the Indian film industry is 2% of the world film industry. Now, so 98% is out there. One of the reasons is that we have a fantastic shortage of theatres in this country. There are really no more than about 9,000 theatres in this country, which is shocking. A country like Russia has 200,000 theatres. And they have, you know, a tenth of our population, or maybe a fifth of our population. So, there is something which Indian filmmakers are now starting to do, which is make films in English. But remember, in English, there's one rule you should keep in mind as filmmakers, as storytellers, as actors. The kind of films that succeed internationally are either one of them among us or one of us among them. These are the two most workable stories. I think Ang Lee's Life of Pi is a remarkable exception because it was just about an Indian family. It didn't have an American sitting in the middle. And I think what got that the release it did was because Ang Lee is God. He's untouchable. Anything he does works. And as he proved, but he proved a very important point, that you can make a film just about Indians and it works abroad. As did Slumdog Millionaire. However, remember these are the exceptions to the rule. The more likely to succeed would be if one of them, it's a story of one of them here or one of us there. But you must give the audience their point to relate to. Remember, the Indian in the foreign is you may relate to him, but he's a foreigner from their point of view. So write it with that in mind. And write him in a way that they care about. As Frank Capra said, in this book called Name Above the Title, why should the audience care about your hero? A lot of filmmakers solve that problem because they put Hrithik Roshan in that role, or Salman Khan, or Amir Khan. Put a star in the role. Suppose that role was not done by a star. Why should the audience be interested in that character? Don't assume just because he's your hero, the audience will care for him. You have to do things that make people care. And once you care for your hero, then you care about what happens to him. I often see this film made about some Richie Rich who's having a terrible life and then he has a realization. Who cares? Who cares? The man on the street is living life hard enough. He doesn't know the problems of some Richie Rich. You have to think about why the audience should care for your hero is a very important factor. And make sure that whatever his problem is a real conflict. I advise all of you, actors, directors, editors, writers, everyone, study the story form. Study what it takes what are the elements of a good story? Whose story is it? What is the conflict? How does it resolve itself? Was that resolution surprising but unexpected, or was it just usual? Did you come out of the story feeling good, or troubled, or enlightened? All these things you have to think about, because as the religious texts say, in the beginning was the Word. But in the film industry, it's in the beginning was the script, and ultimately it's the story, because the script is a way of narrating a story. But start with the basic story. How good is that? Don't get into the cleverness of then we cut back and then we do this and then we do that and sochne ka time nahi milega and all this. It doesn't work. Audience is not fools. A flashback should take things forward, not ground things. So make sure you have a story that you want to tell, that you're happy to be part of. Now sometimes as an actor, you don't particularly care about the story, but it's a good role. Do it. Do it. Success or failure is their responsibility. You're not going to share profits. You're not concerned with losses. Do it. But for the rest of you, sometimes you have choices. Should I do this project or should I do that project? This will pay me a little more, but this is a much more interesting story. Do the one with the more interesting story. You'll be more proud of it. It'll be something to show. It'll make bigger waves. So money is important, very important in this business, because the money is irregular and the bills are regular. So money is important. But when you have to make choices, money shouldn't be the only criteria. It should be one of the criteria. The greatest criteria should be job satisfaction. And if you go by that, I'm sure most of you will find your satisfaction. It's been absolutely a wonderful morning talking to these very bright and interested and curious and capable students. I could tell by their questions that they were really clued in. They're part of this whole wonderful new generation that's entering the world of audiovisual, and they're part of the generation that is in this industry at the most exciting time when the means of filmmaking have come into so many people's lives. So I think some of them, or many of them I hope, will go on to do great things. It's been wonderful coming here, not just talking to the younger generation, but also seeing the facilities you have, the kind of teachers that you provide the students, as well as the cleanliness and the efficiency of the facility as a whole. I compliment you on setting up the Digital Academy, and I hope that it produces many great contributors to Indian cinema, television, and all the audiovisual arts that span the internet.